Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo and well, today I want to continue the last topic we were doing, that was Dlss 3 against FSR 3. In the first video with Forspoken, I wasn't only seeing the frame generation part of it, but also FSR 2 and the improvement, I mean super resolution and frame generation, right? So this time, because Immortal of Aveum supports also Dlss 3, I want to concentrate myself in the frame generation part of the technology. As we have stated many times before, FSR2 is clearly inferior to Dlss2, so some problems that we see when comparing FSR3 and Dlss3 are more inherent to FSR2, the super resolution part of it, like the shimmering and all the little stuff like the occlusion artifacts and so on. Those are part of the FSR2. Today I'm not going to be checking for those problems because, well, they are there and some games have them more than others. Today we're only going to check the frame generation part of both technologies, okay? And I have to say that I didn't have this game, but the reason I was able to buy it because thanks to donors, to my Patreons and members. And I know I don't have any members here or Patreon set aside, but you can be a member of this channel. I have a Spanish channel, and well, from time to time I'm able to buy games just for testing purposes. So if you want to help me make more videos like this, please, any donation or any membership will be really appreciated, since these videos is still not in the minimum that I need in order to be able to monetize it, which is 1,000 subscribers. It has been a very hard road to get there. Anyway, so the way we are going to do this is the first part of this video is going to be this video running at normal speed. Well, it's not really normal. What I did was I recorded this game at 120 FPS and I limited the frame rate to 120, so I know that I am capturing every single frame that is generated. But this video you're about to see, because YouTube cannot show 120 FPS, has been reduced to 60 FPS, but not by reducing the number of frames, but by making it slower. So that way we're going to see every single frame that was produced in this intro on Dlss 3 and FSR 3. Obviously the game is not always running at 120, sometimes you go at 85, 90, so there are some repeated frames and the synchronization is not perfect, but it will help us to see every single frame that was created either using Dlss 3, FSR or native frame. So that's the first thing. And also because it's running at 60 FPS, this will also put some more pressure to see the problems with the technology. Well, I have to say, even at half the speed, it's running quite good. Okay, so let me put myself to not make this very long, smaller over here. Yeah, there we are. And let's start by watching. I'm going to comment some things, right? So the first thing, as I said, you can put this video, for example, at 2x on YouTube and then see it at full speed and running normally. It's not going to be perfectly in sync, as I said. I try to sync it as much as possible, but there are going to be some differences here and there. But as you can see, we are looking at the game at half the speed, and still we are seeing every single frame. I'm not using any sort of interpolation or anything like that to get, you know, to improve. This is native 60 from 120, so every single frame there is here, and we are looking at all of them. And you know, the first impression of both technologies, we have tested the Dlss 3 before, so we know how it works, but the first impression for FSR 3 is that it's looking really good. The technology is working quite great, I will say, you know. And I have to say, and I've been saying this, that I believed honestly that FSR3, the frame generation implementation of it, has been more successful for AMD than FSR2 in terms of, you know, achieving the same or superior quality to Dlss 3. There are some problems that you can see while this video is running that are clear to me, but I don't know if you can see them yet. But I'm going to be showing them in quite specifically, so we can get there, right? But at the moment, let's just let the video run so you have a first impression. And the first impression of FSR3 are really, really great, especially considering that Nvidia doesn't support RTX 2000 and 3000 and FSR3 does. And this puts a very heavy burden on Nvidia, because even though And I don't want to spoil, but I think DLSS 3 is a little bit superior still than FSR 3. The fact that they are doing this without any tensor core or anything shows that, from my point of view, Nvidia should be supporting DLSS 3 frame generation with RTX 2000 and 3000 cards. Okay, so yeah, maybe it wouldn't be the same quality as RTX 4000, but it's clearly possible in some way. So this narrative is maybe not supported anymore, and Nvidia needs to move, because it's not right that a third party is the one supporting that. In the case of DLSS against FSR, there is an argument, because DLSS is, from my point of view, a lot superior than FSR 2 in terms of super resolution. I do believe that DLSS is way ahead of FSR. However, I don't think DLSS frame generation is superior, or way superior, maybe slightly superior to FSR 3. Because even though, yes, it is inferior, the problem is that when you are seeing a game running at 100 frames, that inferiority is not going to be very noticeable at all at normal speed. So this is the thing that now Nvidia has to prove that they are really not screwing people around with this thing, because it's not nice, if you ask me. So well, we're going to keep watching this. As I said, it's 60 FPS running from 120. As I said at the beginning, also you can watch this at double the speed, so you can see it at normal 120, which I think it will be even more difficult for you to spot the problems that I have been mentioning. Okay, so okay, this is the end of this intro that I'm using as a test for this. So you see here some of the problems quickly. This shimmering and stuff, that's related more to super resolution from FSR2, and we are not going to be discussing that in this video, because this is only about the generated frames, the generation of frames technology. But unfortunately, I cannot activate FSR frame generation without activating some form of FSR super resolution. The same for DLSS 3. Okay, so that needs to be clear, because if you see any shimmering or vibration or any other problem, that's more related to super resolution, and that's not the point of discussion of this video. There are also some engine issues like textures popping and so on, but that's again not frame generation problem. Okay, so here we are. I'm using the iCAD software in order for us to be able to actually do comparisons on the fly. And before we start, I have to say that this software has issues moving the video at 120 FPS. So we are not going to be, don't worry if the movement it looks wrong or bad, because it's not able to move the two videos at the same time at 120 FPS. So it creates some issues here and there. What we are going to be using this software is to move from points of the video that I want to check with you. And the first point of contention, and where I saw the first difference, was in this area here. So let me show you what I mean. In the DLSS part, which is still the left side, and the FSR3, which is the right side. So one of the problems I saw, as you can see here, this is a good frame and it looks quite nice. But however, let's move one frame and look for one of the generated frames. This is another good one, and this seems to still we're having good frame. Okay, this is a bad frame. You see? Do you see what happened? So the particles are disappearing. That's one of the issues that I saw that is happening with the DLSS 3 when there is a lot of particles. It reduces the amount of particle by a lot, because the next frame, when we go and find the next, you see, they come back again. And this is an issue with DLSS 3. So how does FSR 3 treat the same area? Well, let's go back some frames and find out. So this is a bad frame, and I know that for a while. Remember, they are not perfectly in sync, okay? So, and this is a good one. So, well, you can see here, this is a good frame in FSR case, in this case, and you can see all the particles. The game looks the same in both cases. Here, there is not much of a difference in terms of quality. However, when we go to the next frame, what we see is like more particles actually, right? Well, yeah, because the problem is, or not the problem, it's just a different approach. I don't know which one is better, because in movement, I cannot see in any case which one is doing worse. But when we are checking right here, we can see that there is more particles just because there is some sort of ghosting. So we're seeing the previous particle plus the new position, right? Look, this one in the center, you can see that now we are seeing the next particle, but this one hasn't disappeared yet. When we move to the next good frame, the previous one disappears. So what it's doing is also creating for that middle particle another one, which, well, you know, this could be a better approach, probably, because, you know, it's still a middle point, and DLSS is removing those particles, so maybe it creates some flickering. I cannot see a problem in any of the two situations, for FSR3 or for Dlss 3 frame generation. But this is a curious thing because they both act in a very different way, and you can see that this is a bad frame because here there's some garbage that you can see, but because this is blurred out, you're not going to notice at 120 fps, so that's not a big problem. So the other problem that in this case DLSS has that FSR3 doesn't have, and this is a problem, this is not like a different approach to the situation, is, let me find a point where I can show you this. Okay, I'm going to play this and wait a little bit. Okay, maybe you know where I'm going with this. Okay, so let's go here again. Let's go a little bit back, a little bit back, a little bit back. It's a little bit because 120 FPS is a little bit difficult to get to the points where I want to go. So what I want to go with this is to show you something that AMD has fixed. Here we are. Okay, so you see it? So you can see this, and you see here is garbage. So this garbage is because the next frame is going to change the subtitles. Okay, so it's a different subtitle. So this frame, which is in DLSS 3, is essentially garbage. Sometimes you can see it flickering on the screen when it happens, even very fast. Something is wrong. You don't care too much, but something is wrong. So look, when we go to the next frame, the image is good. There is no problem. You see now, no problems here. That is going to be all right. But when we go to this particular one, it's completely garbage, and that's because the DLSS 3, I don't know if it's the implementation or whose fault it is, if DLSS or the developer, I will blame more DLSS 3, hasn't figured out a way to apparently not put the UI as part of the DLSS 3 generation. While if we go to the FSR 3, you see the first frame with the new subtitle is absolutely spot on, no problem, it's perfect, because it's actually not touching the UI, and that's a very important thing that they are not doing here in DLSS 3. So in that regards, is the FSR 3 is better clearly than the DLSS 3. Maybe Nvidia will blame the implementation, well, I don't know, but the fact is that in this particular case the UI is perfect in the case of the FSR 3, but it's not in the case of DLSS, as we have proof. If we go back, you can see garbage here, because you see no problems, it's perfect. Then here it's not perfect still, you can see some issues. If we go in, you can see some issues still, so it's taking a couple of frames to actually, you know, put the right one. And then when we go here, you can see that in the case, the first frame in the case of FSR 3 is just perfect. Now when we move to the next one is when you see that it goes perfect. So that's something that Nvidia needs to work on, and that AMD has gotten right at first time. Okay, so moving on, let's look for another area where I think both are great. Okay, just to show you another area that is important and that is being managed quite good in this situation. Okay, we can check some area. Okay, here is, let me show you when the thing happens. Okay, perfect. Let me move a little bit back, It's so hard when you're working on okay, we should be close. Okay, so this frame says nothing. It's not about this frame. It's about this frame. You see? So in the case of DLSS, we have a completely change of a scene. Boom. No problem. So it's not, you know, making a frame generation between two completely different scenes. That used to be a problem in the initial phases of DLSS 3, and is resolved here because when there is a change of camera, then there is no like a frame between the two that used to create some image garbage, weird flashing on the screen, right? So no, here is absolutely spot on, no problems whatsoever. You can see we go to the previous frame, new area. Absolutely no problems. This is a real frame, not a generated one. And also on FSR 3, if we go here and we keep going, you can see same thing. No problems whatsoever. So AMD has gotten this right. One weird thing that is happening here, you see the guy on the right, they have different expressions. It has nothing to do with DLSS. It's just a funny thing I noticed when looking at the. I don't know why he has a different expression. You say like a bigger nose or something, or it may be the depth of the field, but it looks kind of weird. You see, I don't know what's going on there and why that difference. But well, that's one of the things. However, I'm going to show you where the FSR3 falls, and this is not a criticism or to say that it's bad, because many people took some of the criticism I made the other day like I mean it's bad. No, I'm just showing you the things that it does good and does bad. In this case, we're going to be showing the things that I found, and still I think AMD has done an incredible work with the first version of the technology. Honestly to God, I think they have done an amazing job here, and as I said, I think the FSR3 implementation is much better than the FSR2 implementation. So let's keep going because this is going to be an interesting one. Okay, here we are. Okay, here is our friend again. So what I'm going to show you here is this. So one of the problems with DLSS in both cases or frame generation is rapid movement. That's where things fall apart, all right? So okay, let's see then here how DLSS handles this scene, this particular scene, right? So this is probably a good frame because it looks immaculate, no problem. So let's move frame by frame. This is going to be a slow part, guys, so please be patient with me. So here, this is a generated frame. It's clear, you can see here all the problems, but it's okay, no problem. It's moving very fast. It's a fast movement. It's going at 120 FPS. You are not going to notice a movement, but the thing that I like about this is that it's respecting the areas that are not in movement. You see around the hand, it's like it's limited to the hand, okay? Let's keep seeing bigger. You see this hand's movement with some depth of field applying to it, because that's how, and this hand's movement and still looks okay, all right? So if we keep moving, you see that there is depth of field. Even the normal shutter speed of the game is showing a blurry image. So, and this is a good frame. You can see all the blurriness going around. So this shouldn't affect when you're playing, and you're not going to notice that. This is clearly a bad frame. And let's keep moving because there is going, okay, broken, but it's important that you memorize what you're seeing or try to remember, okay? Because then we're going to be looking at FSR3. And so you see, good frame, okay, bad frame. Okay, this is one of the biggest movement here, you see? So we are seeing here a lot of things moving, and this is a completely, so look at the face, look at completely generated. However, look at everything else that is not involved in the movement. It still looks quite good, quite decent. As I said, at 120 FPS and everything going very fast, you're not going to notice those things, right? Look at here, his face is blurred in the previous, so this one is not going to affect you because the next frame is going to be good again anyway. So that, even that gap, this big gap here, and then here, we are not seeing any big issues, right? So it seems to respect everything else that was not moving correctly, and in general the scene is going to play quite decent. If we instead go back to FSR, and let me go back to where things start, right? Okay, let me go now to FSR. Now the story is a little bit different. Let me put it a little bit further. Oops, I got too ahead. Okay, so let's go back and start by looking. So here is quite good. This is a bad frame clearly for all the garbage. But look, the problem that I'm starting to see is that the garbage goes outside the area of movement. Okay, look at all this effect. So here is okay. Here is okay because there is no problems. And here starts garbage here. There is ghosting here. As you can see, there is image ghosting. This is garbage. Well, just still 120 FPS. You're not going to notice this too much because it's an area of movement. The problem for me with FSR3 and where it's a little bit inferior to DLSS 3 is when we get to bigger movement. So from here you can start to see how things start falling apart a little bit, right? Things start to get more scrambled than it used to with DLSS 3. You see here, we never saw this big of an issue with DLSS 3 because it's also pixelated. You see, it's very pixelated. In fact, it's not smooth, which helps when you create that pixelization. And look at this, This went ahead of the area. All this here shouldn't be here. You see what I mean? All this area, all this thing happening here is outside the area of movement, which is going to create little flashes of something happening even at that speed. Because look, it's very, very scrambled, very pixelated, very damaged. Look at that. Look at that. So it shouldn't, this part here shouldn't be affecting. When we go to the DLSS 3 part, unfortunately it's not very in sync, so I cannot show both. But you remember it wasn't like that. So if we keep, let me keep move ahead. Let's see other frames, right? Those are good frames. But look at this. This is another garbage frame, garbage generated frame, but it's extremely damaged. Look at the person on the background. It's completely destroyed. It has absolutely destroyed the person on the background, which never happened on the DLSS 3 part of it. Look at here, look at the hand, look at all this area being completely destroyed. Here we have another frame that is moved with the movement, and look at how things goes here. It's absolutely destroyed, right? So yeah, it's not going to be super like noticeable when you're playing, especially if you're but you know, it's more noticeable. So let's go back then to like here and play this. It's super fast. You're not able to really notice it, right? As I said, unfortunately I'm not seeing the 120 FPS here, but now let's try to put the velocity of this to like 0.5 maybe, and let's go back and see if we can see all those frames. You see, now you can see that something flash, right? And the reason I have to do this is because, as I said, you cannot watch the 120 FPS, but when we go slow, we can see what's going on. If we go a little bit slower, there's a 0.25. Let's go a little bit back and let's see at the scene again. So you see everything. So there you saw that stealth, that movement, that flashing that happened. Now let's look at the same scene with the DLSS 3 at the same speed. So you see it's much more cleaner. You don't see the flashing between these characters especially. So look at the character on here, and he's always in sync, and they are never like damaged. While unfortunately with FSR 3, different character by the way, we can't say the same. Look at this. Look at how everything's happening. You see there is garbage occluding them. So essentially that's the biggest problem I was able to catch. But for everything else, I have to say, of course, if this is a very fast-paced game, this is going to cause problems for some. But still, I believe that when you're playing at 120 FPS, even if there is one flash here or there, depending on the chaos that is happening on the screen, obviously, on the game you're playing, because if it's a very, rapid FPS, it may look a lot like garble. But if it's just like a first-person game, third-person game, like a Jedi Survivor, for example, I don't think this is going to affect you, and it's going to give you a better, appreciation of the game. So from my point of view, AMD has done something really good, and we have to understand this is the first iteration, and it's obviously going to improve. So if they are able to achieve this in the first try, for me this is a win-win. I will say, and as I said before, that the DLSS 3 is still a little bit superior, even though the UI is garbled from time to time, because, well, it's not a big issue, but it is. However, FSR 3 is much closer to DLSS 3 than FSR 2 is to DLSS 2. When I use the numbers, I'm trying to refer to the technology with super resolution and frame generation that they are talking. So from my point of view, this shows that AMD has done a better work in this area, okay? But the biggest concern for me is that AMD doing this has proven that frame generation should be able to be done on RTX 2000 and 3000, even if the optical flow accelerator is not as good, because then Nvidia could, I don't know, fall back maybe to a softer solution, or to use the optical flow in a different way, and maybe, make it's not the same quality, but it's better than nothing. So there is no excuse for Nvidia in this case now to say, not like it's not possible. Because I honestly, I believe Nvidia that the optical flow in the RTX 4000 is much faster, and that, you know, you cannot have the same quality on all, but still give me some quality. I think it's preferable than nothing, because if AMD is able to do this by using just, you know, normal GPU rasterization power, then even you by your tensor cores and optical flow, you should be able to give me something. I hope this kind of long video has helped you see the differences that I have found on this, and to be honest, I am quite impressed, and I think AMD has something very good here, and I am happy that you are able to use this sort of technologies on any sort of RTX card, and starting from the 5700 RX GPUs. This is a very good technology, a very good first try, and I think AMD deserves recognition for that. So recognitions AMD, because you've done something really, really good. Nvidia, on this one, yes, you have the advantage, but that advantage is only available for RTX 4000, and you need to do something about it. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.